Document for Part 6. The chamber aboard the Valen starship remained bathed in its soft, pulsating glow as Alex prepared to delve into one of humanity's most defining traits, curiosity. The air was thick with a quiet energy, the kind that comes when two vastly different worlds begin to find common ground. Alex could feel the weight of the moment, the realization that he wasn't just answering questions, but planting seeds of understanding that might reshape how the Valens viewed existence itself. Kale, or had asked about humanity's relationship with the unknown, and Alex knew this was a topic that went beyond mere exploration. It was about dreams, questions, and the relentless drive to understand what lay beyond the horizon. He took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts before speaking. When I was a kid, Alex began, his voice steady but tinged with wonder. I used to lie on the roof of my house at night with my sister, Emily. We'd bring blankets and snacks, and we'd stare up at the stars for hours. The sky felt endless, like it stretched on forever. One time, Emily pointed to a particularly bright star and asked me if anyone lived there. I didn't know the answer, of course, but we spent the rest of the night imagining what those distant worlds might be like. He paused, glancing at the Valens to gauge their reactions. Their forms remained still, their translucent skin flickering, faintly as though responding to the imagery he painted with his words. Encouraged by their silence, Alex continued. We imagined oceans made of liquid light, forests filled with glowing trees, and creatures that looked nothing like us. Were friendly, others were mysterious. But no matter what we dreamed up, the idea of life out there somewhere felt exciting. It gave us a sense of purpose, like we weren't alone in the universe. Zanara tilted her elongated head slightly, her wide eyes fixed on him with unblinking intensity. And this, imagination. What purpose does it serve? Is it functional or merely decorative? Alex chuckled softly, recognizing how foreign the concept must seem to beings who prioritized logic and efficiency. Imagination is more than just daydreaming, he explained. It's how humans explore possibilities, solve problems, and create things that don't yet exist. Think about it. Every invention, every piece of art, every story started as an idea in someone's mind. Without imagination, we wouldn't have airplanes, computers, or even the language we use to communicate. The Valens exchanged silent glances, their telepathic communication humming softly in the background. Kelver stepped forward slightly, his towering form glowing faintly with authority. You suggest that abstract thought holds tangible value, he mused. Yet among our kind, such indulgences are unnecessary. Progress is achieved through direct action, not speculation. Alex nodded, understanding the stark contrast between human and Valen approaches to innovation. For humans, progress isn't just about building something new, it's about asking why. Why do we exist? Does the universe work the way it does? Why should we care about others? These questions push us to think bigger, to dream bolder. Sometimes the answers lead to practical solutions. Other times, they simply give us a deeper appreciation for life. Zanara's glow dimmed slightly as though she were reflecting on his words. Her elongated fingers brushed against the smooth surface of the chamber floor, a gesture Alex interpreted as contemplation. Your species embraces uncertainty willingly, she observed. Would you not prefer clarity? A path free of doubt? You would if it existed, Alex admitted. But the truth is, life is full of mysteries. Even the smartest humans can't explain everything. Instead of fearing the unknown, we embrace it. We ask questions, conduct experiments, and share stories. Each discovery leads to new questions, creating an endless cycle of learning. Kelver raised a hand, signaling for silence. His posture radiated calm authority, yet there was a subtle shift in his demeanor, a hint of introspection that hadn't been there before. You speak of exploration as if it is infinite, he said, yet resources are finite. How do you justify investing energy in pursuits that may yield no immediate benefit? Alex smiled faintly, recalling countless debates about funding space missions, scientific research, and artistic endeavors. Not everything needs to have a clear payoff, he replied. Sometimes, The journey itself is the reward. Exploring the unknown inspires hope, creativity, and unity. When humans look up at the stars, we're reminded of how small we are and how much we have in common. That shared sense of wonder brings us together. The chamber fell silent once more, the hum of the ship's systems filling the void left by Alex's words. The Valens stood frozen, their glowing forms flickering, faintly as though absorbing the weight of his philosophy. For beings who prided themselves on precision and order, the idea of valuing intangibles like wonder and imagination was both unsettling and captivating. Zenara broke the silence, her voice softer than before. "You mentioned earlier that your family celebrated traditions tied to nature," she said. "Do these rituals also extend to the cosmos, to the stars above?" Alex nodded, remembering how deeply intertwined humanity's relationship with the natural world was with its fascination. "For the heavens? Absolutely," he replied. "Many cultures have myths, legends, and ceremonies connected to the stars. Ancient civilizations built calendars based on the movements of planets and constellations. Modern societies celebrate events like meteor showers or eclipses. Even today, people gather to watch rocket launches, hoping to catch a glimpse of humanity." Reaching further into space, Zenara's glow brightened slightly, as though she were experiencing a flicker of admiration, or perhaps longing. "Among our kind," she admitted, "such connections are rare. Our focus is on survival, progress, efficiency. The cosmos is distant." Alex felt a pang of sadness at her response. He imagined a life without the simple joys of gazing at the night sky, dreaming of faraway worlds, or feeling a sense of awe at the vastness of the universe. To him, those experiences were what made life worth living. Without them, existence felt hollow, mechanical. Kelver exchanged another glance with Zenara, his expression unreadable, but his posture relaxed slightly. "Your insights challenge our understanding of purpose," he acknowledged. "Perhaps there is wisdom in exploring these concepts further. Tell us then about diversity among your species. How do differing perspectives contribute to your collective growth?" Alex took a deep breath, letting the question settle in his mind. Knew this line of inquiry delved deeper than mere facts. It touched on humanity's rich tapestry of cultures, beliefs, and traditions. As he prepared to share another piece of his story, he realized that this meeting wasn't just about diplomacy or scientific exchange. It was an opportunity for both species to learn from each other, to find common ground despite their differences. Little did Alex know the seeds of change he was sowing would continue to grow, shaping the future of both civilizations in ways neither side could yet imagine. Document for Part 1: the starship hovered silently above Earth's atmosphere, its sleek metallic surface shimmering faintly against the deep blackness of space. It was massive, dwarfing even the largest human spacecraft by comparison, and yet it moved with an eerie grace that suggested precision engineering beyond anything humanity had achieved. Inside the vessel, a delegation of beings known as the Valens prepared for their first formal meeting with representatives from the planet below. These aliens were tall, much taller than humans, with translucent skin that glowed faintly in hues of blue and green. Their elongated limbs and wide almond-shaped eyes made them appear almost ethereal. For centuries, humanity had speculated about life beyond Earth. Stories of alien visitors had been told in books, movies, and whispered legends passed down through generations. But now, here they were, not invaders or conquerors, but diplomats, seeking to understand the strange species called humans. The Valens had studied Earth from afar, analyzing its ecosystems, observing its civilizations, and marveling at the complexity of its cultures. Yet there was one aspect of human existence that baffled them more than anything else: emotion. Kelver, the leader of the Valen delegation, stood at the center of the chamber where the meeting would take place. His presence commanded respect, not because of his height or glowing features, but because of the calm authority he exuded. Around him, other members of the delegation waited patiently, their movements fluid and deliberate. They communicated telepathically, exchanging thoughts in melodic tones that resonated softly within the room. To a human ear, It might have sounded like music, a symphony without instruments, on Earth. The selection process for who would represent humanity in this historic encounter had been intense. Governments argued over which country should send their ambassador. Scientists debated whether a technical expert would be more appropriate. And philosophers suggested someone versed in ethics could bridge any cultural gaps. In the end, however, the decision fell on Alex Carter, a young anthropologist whose research focused on cross-cultural interactions. Alex wasn't famous or politically connected. He was simply someone who understood people, how they thought, how they felt, and why they acted the way they did. Alex had always been curious about the world around him. Growing up in a small town in Ohio, he spent countless hours exploring forests, reading books about faraway lands, and listening to stories told by elders in his community. He earned degrees in anthropology and sociology, eventually becoming a professor at a university in Chicago. When news broke that aliens had arrived, Alex never imagined he'd be chosen to meet them. But when officials explained that they needed someone who could explain humanity, not just its achievements, but its essence, he realized why he'd been picked. As Alex stepped onto the shuttle that would carry him to the Valen starship, his heart raced. He tried to stay calm, reminding himself that this was an opportunity unlike any other. Still, doubt crept into his mind. What if he said something wrong? What if the aliens found humans too primitive or uninteresting? He took a deep breath, clutching the folder containing notes he'd prepared during the short flight. The shuttle ascended rapidly, breaking free of Earth's gravity and soaring toward the waiting alien craft. When Alex finally entered the chamber aboard the Valen ship, he couldn't help but feel overwhelmed. The walls seemed alive, pulsating gently with light patterns that shifted like waves on water. The air smelled clean, almost sterile, yet carried a faint sweetness that reminded him of flowers after rain. Standing before him were the Valens, their forms towering and luminous. Kelver stepped forward, his voice entering Alex's mind not as words, but as sensations, calm, welcoming, and slightly curious. "Welcome, human," Kelver said, though no lips moved. "We are honored to make your acquaintance." Alex swallowed hard, forcing himself to speak despite the lump in his throat. "Thank you for inviting me," he replied, his voice steady despite his nerves. I'm honored to be here." Kelver tilted his head slightly, studying Alex with those large, unreadable eyes. "You are called Alex Carter, correct?" he asked. When Alex nodded, the alien continued, "Our studies of your species suggest you value individuality highly. Is this accurate?" "Yes," Alex answered carefully. "Each person is unique, shaped by their experiences, beliefs, and relationships. And what defines these relationships?" Another Valen chimed in, her voice softer but equally melodic. Her name, Alex learned, was Zinara. She was younger than Kelver, her glow brighter, and her demeanor more animated. "Well," Lex began, choosing his words thoughtfully, "relationships are connections between people. They can be based on love, trust, shared goals, or sometimes just proximity. Families, friendships, communities, all of these are examples of relationships." Zinara exchanged a glance with Kelver, her expression unreadable. "Fascinating," she murmured. "Among our kind, such bonds are rare. We prioritize efficiency and survival above all else." Alex nodded slowly, absorbing this information. He knew the Valens were advanced intellectually, but hearing firsthand how differently they approached life made him realize just how much humanity valued emotion. Before he could respond further, Kelver spoke again, to better understand. "Your species, we wish to learn about your early years," he said. "What is it like to grow up on your planet?" The question caught Alex off guard. Of all the topics he'd prepared for technology, politics, religion, he hadn't expected the conversation to turn so personal so quickly. Childhood wasn't something most adults thought about often, let alone discussed with extraterrestrial beings. Still, he knew this was important. If the Valens wanted to grasp what made humans tick, then sharing memories of his own youth might be the best way to start. Taking a moment to gather his thoughts, Alex smiled faintly. "Growing up on Earth," he began, "is complicated. Every child has a different experience depending on where they live, who they're with, and what resources they have access to. For me, growing up in a small town meant spending a lot of time outdoors. I played sports, explored nature, and spent hours imagining adventures with my friends. He paused, noticing how intently the Valens were listening. None of them moved, their glowing forms frozen in place as if afraid to miss a single detail. Encouraged by their interest, Alex went on. One of my favorite memories is playing baseball under the summer sun. My dad used to coach our team, and every weekend we'd gather at the local field. The grass smelled fresh, the sky was always blue, and the sound of laughter filled the air. Even when we lost, we celebrated because we had fun together. As Alex spoke, he noticed subtle changes in the Valens' expressions, or at least what passed for expressions on their faces. Kelver's posture relaxed slightly, while Zanara's glow brightened ever so subtly. They weren't just listening. They were absorbing, processing, trying to comprehend a concept entirely foreign to them. What purpose does this serve? Zanara asked, her tone tinged with curiosity. It seems inefficient compared to tasks necessary for survival. Alex chuckled softly, shaking his head. Play isn't about efficiency. It's about learning about teamwork, problem solving, creativity. When you play, you experiment. You fail, try again, and figure things out along the way. That's how kids develop skills they'll use later in life. The Valens exchanged more glances, their telepathic communication humming quietly in the background. Alex could sense their confusion, their struggle to reconcile his explanation with their own rigid worldview. But he also saw something else: intrigue. For beings who prided themselves on logic and order, the idea of embracing chaos and uncertainty was both bewildering and captivating. Kelver raised a hand, signaling for silence among his companions. Continue, he urged Alex. Tell us more about these early years. How do humans form bonds with others during this time? And so, Alex dove deeper into his memories, painting vivid pictures of family dinners, schoolyard friendships, and quiet moments spent gazing at the stars. With each story, the Valens grew quieter, their fascination evident in the way they leaned closer, their luminescent forms flickering like candle flames in a draft. By the time Alex finished speaking, he realized he'd barely scratched the surface, but the seed had been planted. Humanity's emotional depth, once dismissed as irrelevant by the Valens, was beginning to spark a change in their perspective. Little did Alex know, this conversation would set the stage for something far greater, a journey of mutual understanding that would alter the course of both civilizations forever. Document for Part 2, as Alex stood in the glowing chamber, surrounded by towering Valens whose translucent forms shimmered faintly with each passing thought. He couldn't help but feel a strange mix of awe and vulnerability. The aliens were unlike anything he'd ever imagined, calm, curious, and yet somehow distant, as if they were observing him through a lens that filtered out emotion. Their telepathic voices echoed softly in his mind, melodic and soothing, but also probing, as though they were trying to peel back layers of his thoughts without asking permission. Zanara, the younger Valen, who had been particularly intrigued by Alex's description of childhood play, stepped forward slightly.
Air movements
Were graceful, almost hypnotic, and her glow seemed to pulse gently with every word she communicated. You mentioned earlier that your early years involved activities you described as play, she said, her tone carrying a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. Could you explain further? How does such behavior contribute to survival? Hesitated for a moment, considering how best to frame his response. He knew the Valens valued efficiency above all else. Their society was built on logic, precision, and purpose. To them, anything that didn't directly serve survival or progress might seem frivolous or even wasteful. But Alex also understood that humans weren't wired like machines. Play wasn't just an activity. It was a cornerstone of development, a way to explore the world and connect with others. Well, Alex began, choosing his words carefully. When I was a kid, my best friend Jake and I decided we wanted to build a tree house. We spent weeks planning it, gathering materials, and figuring out how to make it sturdy enough to hold both of us. At first, we failed a lot. The planks kept slipping, the nails bent, and one time the whole thing collapsed while we were inside. But instead of giving up, we kept trying. Each failure taught us something new about balance, teamwork, and patience. He paused, watching the Valens closely. Their expressions remained inscrutable, but their glowing forms flickered faintly. As though processing his words, Snara tilted her elongated head slightly, her wide eyes fixed on him with unblinking intensity. And this treehouse. What function did it serve once completed? She asked. Alex smiled faintly, remembering the countless afternoons he and Jake had spent perched high in the branches, sharing snacks and telling stories. It wasn't really about the treehouse itself, he explained. Sure, it gave us a place to hang out and escape the heat during summer days, but more importantly, building it together brought us closer. It taught us how to communicate, solve problems, and rely on each other. Those are skills that stay with you for life. The chamber fell silent for a moment, the only sound being the soft hum of the ship's systems. Kelver, the leader of the delegation, exchanged a glance with Xenera before addressing Alex. Among our kind, such endeavors would be unnecessary. Our young are trained from birth to perform specific roles within our society. There is no room for error, for what you call failure. Efficiency is paramount. Alex nodded slowly, absorbing the weight of Kelver's statement. He could see why the Valens might view humanity's approach as inefficient, even chaotic. But he also believed there was beauty in imperfection. In the messy process of trial and error that shaped individuals into well-rounded beings. Understand why you prioritize efficiency, he replied. But sometimes, the lessons learned through failure are just as valuable, if not more so, than the end result. Failure teaches resilience, creativity, and adaptability. Those qualities are hard to measure, but they're essential for navigating life's challenges. Xenara's glow brightened slightly, and Alex wondered if she was experiencing something akin to surprise or perhaps intrigue. Your species places great importance on these intangibles, she murmured. Emotions, relationships, experiences. Do you believe they outweigh the benefits of efficiency? It's not about choosing one over the other, Alex said, his voice steady despite the surreal nature of the conversation. For humans, emotions and relationships give meaning to our lives. They drive us to create art, music, literature, to explore the unknown, and ask questions about our place in the universe. Yes, we make mistakes along the way, but those mistakes often lead to discoveries we wouldn't have made otherwise. Kelver raised a hand, signaling for silence. His posture was calm but commanding, and when he spoke, his melodic voice carried a note of contemplation. You speak of exploration and discovery. Tell us, then, about your earliest memories of wonder. What moment sparked your curiosity about the world around you? Alex took a deep breath, letting the question settle in his mind. He had prepared for technical discussions, cultural exchanges, debates about technology, but this line of inquiry delved far deeper than he'd anticipated. Still, he welcomed the opportunity to share something personal, something uniquely human. One of my earliest memories is lying in a field behind my house with my sister. Emily, he began, his voice softening as the image came flooding back. We must have been 8 or 9 at the time. It was late summer, and the air smelled sweet, like freshly cut grass and wildflowers. We'd brought blankets and snacks, and we lay there for hours, staring up at the stars. The sky was so clear, and the Milky Way stretched across it like a river of light. He paused, glancing at the Valens to gauge their reactions. Their forms remained still, but their glowing skin seemed to ripple faintly, as though responding to the imagery he painted with his words. Encouraged, Alex continued. Emily pointed to a particularly bright star and asked me if I thought anyone lived there. I didn't know the answer, of course, but we spent the rest of the night imagining what those distant worlds might be like. Were they covered in oceans? Did their inhabitants look like us? Or were they completely different? That night planted a seed in my mind, a desire to learn more about the universe and our place in it. Nara's posture shifted slightly, her elongated fingers brushing against the smooth surface of the chamber floor. You refer to your sibling as sister, she said. What role do familial bonds play in your development? Alex smiled, recalling the countless memories he shared with Emily. Family is everything, he replied. My parents, Susan and Richard, worked hard to provide for us, but they also made sure we had time to just be kids. My mom baked cakes for our birthdays, and my dad told terrible jokes that always made us laugh anyway. Emily and I fought sometimes, like any siblings do, but we also supported each other through tough times. She was the one who encouraged me to pursue anthropology when I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life. The Valens exchanged more glances, their telepathic communication humming softly in the background. Alex could sense their confusion, their struggle to reconcile his descriptions of family with their own societal structure. Among the Valens, reproduction occurred asexually, and offspring were raised collectively rather than by individual caregivers. Personal connections were rare, seen as distractions from the greater good of the species. Familial bonds appear to be central to your emotional development, Kelver observed, his tone neutral, but tinged with curiosity. Do all humans share such close relationships? Alex shook his head. Not everyone has the same experience. Some families are divided by conflict or hardship, while others grow apart over time. But even in those cases, the memories of connection remain. For many people, family provides a foundation, a sense of belonging that helps them navigate the world. Zanara's glow dimmed slightly, and Alex wondered if she was reflecting on her own upbringing, or lack thereof. He realized how fortunate he had been to grow up in a loving household, surrounded by people who cared deeply about him. For the Valens, whose existence revolved around duty and survival, such luxuries might seem incomprehensible. Tell us more about these traditions, Zanara prompted, her voice softer now. You mentioned celebrations involving food and laughter. What purpose do they serve? Alex chuckled, thinking back to holiday dinners filled with laughter, storytelling, and too much pie. Traditions bring people together, he explained. They remind us of where we come from and give us a chance to celebrate the present. Whether it's lighting candles on a birthday cake or gathering around a table for Thanksgiving dinner, these rituals create shared experiences that strengthen our bonds with one another. The Valens listened intently, their forms frozen in place as though afraid to miss a single detail. Alex could see the wheels turning in their minds. Or whatever passed four minds in their advanced physiologies, they processed his explanations. While their society prized logic and efficiency, they seemed genuinely fascinated by humanity's emphasis on emotion and connection. Kelver finally broke the silence, his melodic voice resonating deeply within the chamber. Your species is complex, he admitted. We have long viewed emotions as obstacles to progress, yet your stories suggest they may hold value beyond what we previously understood. Alex nodded, feeling a surge of hope. Perhaps this meeting was... The conversation continued. Alex found himself growing more comfortable, more confident in his ability to bridge the gap between two vastly different worlds. Little did he know, his words were already beginning to sow seeds of change within the Valen delegation. Document for Part 3, the chamber aboard the Valen starship remained bathed in its soft, pulsating glow as Alex continued to share glimpses of human life with the alien delegation. The air was thick with curiosity and unspoken questions, each word Alex spoke resonating like ripples in a pond. Zanara, who had taken an increasingly active role in the conversation, leaned forward slightly, her luminous form shimmering faintly with every thought that passed through her mind. You mentioned earlier, she began, her melodic voice carrying a tone of both intrigue and hesitation, that your family celebrated occasions together. These rituals they have meaning beyond mere enjoyment. How do they contribute to your species' survival? Alex paused, considering how best to explain something so deeply ingrained in human culture that it often went unquestioned. He thought about the laughter-filled dinners at his childhood home, the way his mother would bake cookies shaped like hearts for Valentine's Day, or how his father always insisted on carving pumpkins every Halloween, despite being terrible at it. To humans, these moments weren't just about fun. They were threads woven into the fabric of identity, connecting individuals to their past and to one another. Survival isn't just about staying alive, Alex replied, his voice calm, but firm. It's also about finding purpose, belonging, and joy. Celebrations remind us of what matters most to the people we care about, the values we hold dear, and the memories we create along the way. Even when times are tough, traditions give us something to look forward to, a reason to keep going. He paused again, searching for an example that might resonate with the Valens. Take birthdays, for instance, he said. On Earth, many cultures celebrate the day someone was born. It's not just about marking another year, it's about showing love and appreciation for that person. Families gather, sing songs, exchange gifts, and share meals. For kids especially, it's a chance to feel special, to know they're valued. Zinara tilted her elongated head, her wide eyes reflecting a mixture of fascination and puzzlement. And this, singing.
What
Purpose does it serve? Is it functional or merely decorative? Alex chuckled softly, realizing how foreign the concept must seem to beings who prioritized utility above all else. Singing is more than just sound, he explained. It's a way to express emotion, to connect with others on a deeper level. When we sing Happy Birthday, for example, it's not just about the words, it's about the feeling behind them. It's a way of saying, we're here for you. You matter. The Valens exchanged silent glances, their telepathic communication humming softly in the background. Kelver, who had been observing quietly until now, stepped forward slightly, his towering form glowing faintly with authority. Your species places great emphasis on emotional expression, he mused. Yet such displays seem vulnerable. Do you not fear rejection or misunderstanding? Alex nodded, acknowledging the truth in Kelver's observation. Humans aren't perfect, he admitted. We argue, we hurt each other, and sometimes we fail to communicate clearly. But vulnerability is part of what makes relationships meaningful. Opening yourself up to someone, even if it means risking pain's how trust is built. And trust is the foundation of strong families, friendships, and communities. The Zinara's glow brightened slightly, as though she were experiencing a flicker of understanding, or perhaps even admiration. Among our kind, she said slowly, such openness would be considered dangerous. Trust is earned through actions, not emotions. Bonds are formed based on shared goals, not personal connections. Alex listened intently, recognizing the stark contrast between the two species, where humans thrived on emotion and connection. The Valens relied on logic and efficiency. Yet he couldn't help but wonder if their rigid approach came at a cost. Doesn't it ever get lonely? He asked gently. Not having close relationships, I mean? The question hung in the air, heavy with implications. For a moment, none of the Valens responded. Their forms remained still, their glowing skin flickering faintly as though processing the weight of Alex's words. Finally, Zinara spoke, her voice softer than before. Loneliness is not a concept we understand, she admitted. Our focus is on the collective good. Individual desires are irrelevant. Alex felt a pang of sadness at her response. He imagined a life without laughter-filled holidays, heartfelt conversations, or quiet moments spent gazing at the stars with loved ones. To him, those experiences were what made life worth living. Without them, existence felt hollow, mechanical. Kelver raised a hand, signaling for silence. His posture radiated calm authority. Yet there was a subtle shift in his demeanor, a hint of introspection that hadn't been there before. You speak of emotions as if they are strengths rather than weaknesses, he said. But surely they also lead to conflict. How do you reconcile this contradiction? Alex nodded, knowing the question was valid. Emotions could indeed be messy, unpredictable, and sometimes destructive. Humans fought wars over pride, greed, and fear. They sabotaged relationships because of jealousy or anger. Yet, despite these flaws, emotions also drove acts of kindness, courage, and selflessness. They inspired art, music, and innovation. They gave life color and depth. Emotions can cause problems, yes, Alex admitted. But they also inspire growth. When we make mistakes, we learn from them. When we hurt others, we try to make amends. And when we experience loss, we find ways to heal. It's not easy, but it's part of being human. The chamber fell silent once more, the hum of the ship's systems filling the void left by Alex's words. The Valens stood frozen, their glowing forms flickering faintly as though struggling to process the complexities of human nature. 4. Beings who viewed emotion as unnecessary, even detrimental. Alex's perspective was both bewildering and enlightening. Zinara broke the silence, her voice carrying a note of cautious curiosity. You described earlier how failure taught you resilience during your childhood, she said. Could you elaborate further? How did these experiences shape you as an individual? Alex smiled faintly, recalling the countless challenges he'd faced growing up. Some had been small, like losing a game of hide-and-seek or failing to master a skateboard trick. Others had been more significant, like moving to a new city and feeling isolated in a school where he didn't know anyone. Each experience had tested him in different ways, forcing him to adapt and grow. When I was 12, Alex began, my family moved from Ohio to Chicago. Everything changed overnight. New neighborhood, new school, new friends. At first, I hated it. I missed my old life, my old routines. Making friends was hard, and I often felt like an outsider. But over time, I learned how to navigate those feelings. I joined clubs, tried new activities, and eventually found my place. Those struggles taught me patience, empathy, and the importance of stepping outside my comfort zone. As he spoke, he noticed Zinara's glow dimming slightly, as though she were reflecting on his words. Her elongated fingers brushed against the smooth surface of the chamber floor, a gesture Alex interpreted as contemplation. Your species embraces discomfort willingly, she asked, her tone tinged with disbelief. In a way, yes, Alex replied. We don't always choose it, but we learn to face it. Growth rarely happens when things are easy. Sometimes the hardest moments in life are the ones that teach us the most. Kelver exchanged another glance with Zinara. His expression, unreadable, but his posture relaxed slightly. Such resilience is admirable, he acknowledged, yet it comes at a cost. Your species tolerates inefficiency and imperfection in pursuit of emotional fulfillment. Would you not prefer a life free of struggle? Alex shook his head firmly. Struggle is what shapes us. Without it, we wouldn't know how to appreciate happiness, peace, or success. Life isn't meant to be perfect. It's meant to be lived fully, with all its ups and downs. The Valens remained silent, their glowing forms flickering faintly, as though absorbing the weight of Alex's philosophy. For beings who prided themselves on precision and order, the idea of embracing chaos and uncertainty was both unsettling and captivating. Yet Alex could sense a shift in the room, a subtle change in the atmosphere, as though his words were planting seeds of doubt in minds long accustomed to certainty. Finally, Kelver spoke, his melodic voice carrying a note of resolve. Your insights are illuminating, he said. They challenge our understanding of progress and purpose. Perhaps there is value in exploring these concepts further. Alex felt a surge of hope at the leader's words. He realized that this meeting wasn't just about sharing stories. It was about challenging assumptions, fostering mutual understanding, and bridging the gap between two vastly different worlds. Little did he know the seeds of change he was sowing would continue to grow, shaping the future of both civilizations in ways neither side could yet imagine. Document for Part 4. The conversation in the glowing chamber aboard the Valen starship continued, the air thick with a mixture of curiosity and contemplation. Alex could feel the weight of the moment, the realization that he wasn't just sharing stories, but planting seeds of understanding between two vastly different species. The Valens stood frozen, their translucent forms shimmering faintly as they absorbed his words. Zinara, in particular, seemed deeply engaged, her wide eyes reflecting a blend of fascination and uncertainty. Kelver broke the silence, his melodic voice resonating softly within the chamber. You have spoken of resilience and growth, he said, his tone measured yet probing. But humans also face challenges that seem insurmountable. How do you cope with such difficulties without succumbing to despair? Alex hesitated for a moment, considering how best to explain something so inherently human. He thought back to moments in his own life when he had felt overwhelmed, times when the world had seemed too big, too cruel, or too unfair. But even in those dark moments, There had always been something, a person, a memory, belief that kept him moving forward. Humans aren't immune to despair, Alex admitted. We feel pain deeply, whether it's from loss, failure, or injustice. But we also have tools to help us heal. One of the most powerful is connection to family, friends, or even strangers who understand what we're going through. When I was in high school, I went through a tough time. Parents were going through a rough patch, and I felt like everything was falling apart. But my best friend Jake noticed. He didn't try to fix things, he just listened. Sometimes that's all someone needs. Zanara tilted her head slightly, her glowing form flickering faintly. Listening requires effort, she observed, yet it yields no tangible result. Why invest energy in such an act? Alex smiled faintly, remembering how much Jake's simple presence had meant to him during that difficult period. Because it matters, he replied. When someone listens, it tells you that your feelings are valid, that you're not alone. It creates trust, which strengthens relationships. And strong relationships give people the strength to face challenges together. The Valens exchanged glances, their telepathic communication humming softly in the background. Kelver's posture relaxed slightly, though his expression remained unreadable. Your species places great value on emotional support, he mused. Yet such reliance on others seems inefficient. Does it not hinder individual progress? Well, it might seem that way, Alex acknowledged. But humans thrive when they work together. Think about it. Even your starship, your incredible technology, wasn't built by one being alone. It took teamwork, collaboration, and shared knowledge. Humans are the same. We achieve our greatest feats not by isolating ourselves, but by leaning on each other. Zinara's glow brightened slightly as though she were processing a new idea. You suggest that vulnerability, the act of relying on others, is a source of strength rather than weakness. Yes, Alex replied firmly. Being vulnerable doesn't mean giving up control. It means trusting that others will stand by you when you need them. That trust builds communities, fosters creativity, and drives innovation. Without it, we'd be stuck trying to solve problems on our own end. Let's face it, no one has all the answers. The chamber fell silent for a moment, the only sound being the soft hum of the ship's systems. The Valens stood motionless, their forms glowing faintly as they processed Alex's explanation. For beings who valued efficiency above all else, the concept of embracing vulnerability was both perplexing and intriguing. Finally, Zanara spoke, her voice carrying a note of cautious curiosity. You mentioned earlier that humans celebrate traditions to create shared experiences. Do these rituals also serve to ease hardship, to provide comfort during times of struggle? Alex nodded, recalling countless instances where traditions had brought solace during difficult periods. Absolutely, he said. Take funerals, for example. When someone passes away, families and friends gather to honor their memory. They share stories, light candles, and offer condolences. It's not just about saying goodbye. It's about coming together to support one another. Those rituals remind us that even in loss, we're not alone. Zanara's elongated fingers brushed against the smooth surface of the chamber floor, a gesture Alex interpreted as deep thought. And this unity? Does it extend beyond immediate circles? Beyond families and friends? Oh, definitely, Alex replied. Humans are social creatures by nature. Even when we don't know someone personally, we often feel compelled to help if they're in need. After natural disasters, for instance, people from all over the world come together to donate supplies, volunteer their time, or simply offer words of encouragement. It's part of what makes us human, the desire to connect, to care, to make a difference. Kelver raised a hand, signaling for silence. His towering form glowed faintly with authority, yet there was a subtle softness in his demeanor now, hint of introspection that hadn't been there before. Such acts of kindness are admirable, he admitted, yet they carry risk. By investing energy in others, do you not expose yourselves to potential harm? Alex nodded, knowing the question was valid. These acts of kindness didn't always yield gratitude. Sometimes they led to disappointment or even betrayal. Yet despite these risks, humans continued to reach out to one another. Yes, there's always a chance of getting hurt, Alex replied. But the alternative, shutting ourselves off from others, is far worse. Isolation breeds loneliness, fear, and resentment. Connection, on the other hand, brings hope, joy, and purpose. The Valens exchanged more glances, their glowing forms flickering faintly as though weighing the implications of Alex's words. For beings who viewed relationships as distractions from collective goals, the idea of prioritizing emotional bonds was both bewildering and enlightening. Zanara stepped forward slightly, her posture relaxed but intent. You describe emotions as sources of strength, she said, yet they also lead to conflict. How do you balance these opposing forces? Alex chuckled softly, recognizing the paradox inherent in human nature. It's not easy, he admitted. Emotions can drive us to greatness, but they can also lead to mistakes. The key is learning how to channel them constructively. Anger, for example, can fuel change if it's directed toward solving problems rather than causing harm. Fear can motivate caution, but it shouldn't paralyze us. Love inspires connection, but it requires trust and respect. Kelver tilted his head slightly, his wide eyes fixed on Alex with unblinking intensity. Your species embraces complexity willingly, he observed. Would you not prefer simplicity, a life free of contradiction? Alex shook his head. Firmly. Simplicity might sound appealing, but it wouldn't be fulfilling. Life's beauty lies in its messianism, the highs and lows, the triumphs and struggles. Embracing complexity allows us to grow, to learn, to become better versions of ourselves. The chamber fell silent once more, the hum of the ship's systems filling the void left by Alex's words. The Valens stood frozen, their glowing forms flickering faintly, as though absorbing the weight of his philosophy. For beings who prided themselves on precision and order, the idea of finding strength in imperfection was both unsettling and captivating. Finally, Kelver spoke, his melodic voice carrying a note of resolve. Your insights challenge our understanding of progress, he said. Perhaps there is wisdom in exploring these concepts further. Tell us, then, about your earliest memories of wonder. What moments sparked your curiosity about the world around you? Alex took a deep breath, letting the question settle in his mind. He knew this line of inquiry delved deeper than mere facts. It touched on the essence of what made humanity unique. As he prepared to share another piece of his story, he realized that this meeting wasn't just about diplomacy or scientific exchange. It was an opportunity for both species to learn from each other, to find common ground despite their differences. Did Alex know the seeds of change he was sowing would continue to grow, shaping the future of both civilizations in ways neither side could yet imagine? Document for Part 5. The chamber aboard the Valen starship remained bathed in its soft, pulsating glow as Alex prepared to share another piece of his story. The air was thick with anticipation, the kind that comes when two vastly different worlds begin to inch closer together. Alex could feel the weight of the moment, the realization that he wasn't just recounting memories, but reshaping how the Valens viewed life itself. Zinara, who had been particularly engaged throughout the conversation, leaned forward slightly, her glowing form shimmering faintly with curiosity. My earliest memories of wonder, Alex began, his voice steady but tinged with nostalgia, are tied to nature. Growing up in a small town in Ohio, I spent most of my childhood outdoors. There was this field behind my house where wildflowers grew in every color imaginable, elos, purples, blues. In the summer, it looked like a sea of colors stretching out forever. I used to run through it barefoot, feeling the grass tickle. My toes in the sun warmed my skin. He paused, glancing at the Valens to gauge their reactions. Their forms remained still, their translucent skin flickering faintly, as though responding to the imagery he painted with his words. Encouraged by their silence, Alex continued, One day when I was about 6 or 7, I found a caterpillar crawling on a leaf. It was bright green, with tiny black spots, and I remember thinking it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. I brought it home and put it in a jar with some leaves, hoping it would turn into a butterfly. Zanara tilted her elongated head slightly, her wide eyes fixed on him with unblinking intensity. And did it? She asked, her melodic voice carrying a note of genuine curiosity. Alex chuckled softly, recalling the memory vividly. Not exactly, he admitted. I didn't know much about caterpillars back then, so I didn't realize they needed space to grow. After a few days, it stopped moving, and I thought it had died. I was heartbroken. But my dad explained that sometimes, even when we try our best, things don't work out the way we hope. He said that's part of learning, that failure teaches us how to do better next time. The Valens exchanged silent glances, their telepathic communication humming softly in the background. Kelver, who had been observing quietly until now, stepped forward slightly, his towering form glowing faintly with authority. You speak of failure as if it holds value, he mused. Yet among our kind, such inefficiency is avoided at all costs. Alex nodded, understanding the stark contrast between human and Valen approaches to life. For humans, failure isn't the end. It's the beginning, he explained. When something doesn't go as planned, we analyze what went wrong, adjust our approach, and try again. That's how we learn, how we innovate. Think about inventors like Thomas Edison. He failed thousands of times before creating a working light bulb. When asked about it, he said he hadn't failed. He'd just found 10,000 ways that didn't work. Zanara's glow dimmed slightly, as though she were reflecting on his words. Her elongated fingers brushed against the smooth surface of the chamber floor, a gesture Alex interpreted as deep thought. Your species tolerates imperfection willingly, she observed. Would you not prefer certainty? A path free of error?
Alex
Shook his head firmly. Certainty might sound appealing, but it wouldn't be fulfilling. Life's beauty lies in its unpredictability, in the questions we ask, the risks we take, and the lessons we learn along the way. Embracing imperfection allows us to grow, to adapt, to become stronger. Kelver raised a hand, signaling for silence. His posture radiated calm authority, yet there was a subtle shift in his demeanor, a hint of introspection that hadn't been there before. You describe emotions and experiences as sources of strength, he said. Yet they also carry risk. Does your species not fear the consequences of such vulnerability? We do, Alex admitted. Fear is part of being human. But fear can also drive us to protect what matters most, to stand up for our loved ones, our communities, our planet. Without fear, we wouldn't appreciate courage. Without pain, we wouldn't recognize healing. These contrasts make life meaningful. Chamber fell silent once more, the hum of the ship's systems filling the void left by Alex's words. The Valens stood frozen, their glowing forms flickering faintly, as though absorbing the weight of his philosophy. For beings who prided themselves on precision and order, the idea of finding strength in chaos was both unsettling and captivating. Zanara broke the silence, her voice softer than before. You mentioned earlier that your family celebrated traditions to create shared experiences, she said. Do these rituals also serve to honor the natural world, to connect with the environment around you? Alex nodded, remembering countless moments spent marveling at Earth's beauty. Absolutely, he replied. Many cultures have festivals and ceremonies tied to nature, planting seasons, harvests, solstices. Even in modern times, people find ways to celebrate the outdoors. My family used to take trips to a nearby lake every fall. We'd watch the leaves change colors, skip stones across the water, and roast marshmallows over a campfire. Those moments reminded us how connected we are to the world around us. Zanara's glow brightened slightly, as though she were experiencing a flicker of understanding, or perhaps admiration. Among our kind, she admitted, such connections are rare. Our focus is on survival, progress, efficiency. The natural world is secondary. Alex felt a pang of sadness at her response. He imagined a life without the simple joys of running through fields of wildflowers, watching fireflies dance in the twilight, or lying under a canopy of stars. To him, those experiences were what made life worth living. Without them, existence felt hollow, mechanical. Kelver exchanged another glance with Zanara, his expression unreadable, but his posture relaxed slightly. Your insights challenge our understanding of purpose, he acknowledged. Perhaps there is wisdom in exploring these concepts further. Tell us then about your relationship with the unknown. How do humans confront the mysteries of the universe? Alex took a deep breath, letting the question settle in his mind. He knew this line of inquiry delved deeper than mere facts. It touched on humanity's innate desire to explore, to question, to dream. As he prepared to share another piece of his story, he realized that this meeting wasn't just about diplomacy or scientific exchange. It was an opportunity for both species to learn from each other, to find common ground despite their differences. Little did Alex know, the seeds of change he was sowing would continue to grow, shaping the future of both civilizations in ways neither side could yet imagine.